Hi, this is Skylar Virtual Studios. I'm Skylar, and today I will be showing you tips and techniques with acrylic paint. To begin, you will need a palette, a paint palette, a palette knife, a pencil, some paint brushes, and your primary colors, blue, red, yellow, and black and white paint. And a little cup of water, and some paper towels. To begin, we will be explaining color mixing. So here is the color wheel, and the primary colors are red, yellow, and blue. So to get any color you want, you need to use these three. So if you want to make green, you'll use blue and yellow, and that makes green. If you want purple, you'll need blue and red. And if you want orange, you'll need red and yellow. And so I'll be showing you how to do that. First, you're going to start off with just a little bit of paint, and you're going to put some paint in your palette. You don't need that much, you just need a little bit. Just a little, that's perfect. And I'm going to put each color in my palette so I can prep it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of red paint on our canvas here. Just some red, and I'm going to do 2 little splotches to show you. And we're going to clean off the paint. And we're going to go in with our yellow. It's okay, it's a little mix because we're going to mix it. And now we have orange. And you can see it's a little bit a fiery orange, so if you're not happy with that color, you can always go in with some more yellow. And since I dipped my brush in the water, you can see that it's kind of see-through. When you do that, it makes the paint go further, and it also makes your paint more translucent, more see-through. And you can go further. So now we made our orange. Now that we have this little red bit, we're going to go in with our blue, and we're going to mix and make a purple. So depending on how you want your purple to look, I think that's a good purple. I just added a little bit more water to my brush so that it would freshen up the red because it started to dry. So now you have purple. Now finally, we're going to go in with our blue. Just a little bit, and see how it's all watery. And our yellow. And we're going to need more yellow than blue. And that'll make our green. Now you have your primary colors and your secondary colors. Alright, now I'm going to show you a few techniques. The first technique I'm going to show you is a stippling technique. You can take a big brush that's dry and just dip it in your paint, and you're just going to go around and lightly press it on, or you can go harder for bigger little marks. And you can always go in with a smaller brush like this and carefully dip into your paint and go on and just quickly dot. And you can get different techniques. This is a really easy way to make a lot of leaves if you're painting a tree, or if you're making a little flower or grass. And it makes a bunch of quick little marks without having to draw every single leaf. And you can always go over it again with the brush. If if you want a little bit more, and then you're just gonna add to it. And you can layer and layer and let it dry and work on it that way. Now the next technique I'm going to show you is how to make a flower petal. All you'll need is a paintbrush that has a pointed tip. And so you're going to decide what color you want your petal to be. So I think I want my petal to be red. And just make sure your brush is fully coated, but not too much. So you're going to wipe off the excess. And you're going to carefully put the tip down and drag like that, and that can make a little flower. And now I'm going to go in with my yellow and do the little stippling with it still wet, and just to create the center of our flower. So the next technique I'm going to show you is how to make a wood texture. So you're going to take your brown and you're going to kind of put a thick layer of paint on your canvas or whatever you're painting on. And then you're going to, while it's still wet, you're going to take something to scratch away the paint. So I'm going to use a palette knife, and I'm going to carefully scratch away the paint. I'm going to have to pass a few times. And you're going to make little lines to make the wood pattern. And it just takes practice to decide how you want your wood to look in different thicknesses. You can do little quick marks, or you can go very slow. But you're just going to scratch away the paint. Now I'm going to take the techniques I just showed you and make a scenery, a landscape scene. I quickly made a light blue, and I'm just going to go in and get it on my palette. I'm laying out the background for my tree. Do my grass. Alright, now I have my lighter green, and I'm going to go in with this darker green to add just a little bit of detail on my grass before I continue. I'm just going to take my brush, and it's coated in the paint, and I'm just going to quickly do the little stippling just so that I have a little grass effect. I'm going to do stippling and upward motions. I'm just going to be a little sloppy with it, just to add a little bit more interest. So now I'm going to go in with my brown that I made, and I'm going to place my big old tree. And I want my tree kind of off-centered. Oh, actually really off-centered. I'm going to start over here. I'm going to bring it down. And I want a big old tree. And remember, because we're going to use that technique to make the wood, we need to do a nice thick layer of paint. Next I'm going to go in with a dry brush and I'm going to go into my pink. I'm just going to lightly dip into it and I'm going to stipple in some little flowers into my grass field. I'm also going to be turning the brush as I stipple so that it's not always the same motion. I'm going to go in with a dry brush and I'm going to dip into my green and I'm just going to take the excess off in here and I'm just going to once again stipple in my leaves to my tree. It's okay if it overlaps on the branches. Lastly, I'm going to go in with this nice fluffy brush, and it's a little wet, but it's okay. And I'm going to go in with this very dark green, this greenish brown, and I'm going to lightly go on top and just add just a little bit of it, just to add a little bit more depth to our tree. Alright, now I'm going to create a little wash. I'm going to get my paintbrush really wet. I'm going to put it in this pan where there's already some colors. And I'm going to take a little bit more of this brown and I'm going to mix it together. And you can see that I have a very watery consistency. I'm going to add a little bit more brown just to add some thickness to it. Now I'm going to go to my tree and I'm going to go over where I had painted. And I'm going to take just a little bit more water on my brush and I'm going to lightly go on my tree to fill in those colors. And you can do this a couple times if it's not opaque enough, not covered enough. One more little tip. You can see right here, I went on the sky and I don't want that, so I'm going to take a paper towel that's a little wet and I'm just going to wipe that off lightly. And now it's back. Thank you for joining us and learning some tips and tricks for acrylic paint.